We've gone from Philippe to Philippe. Good morning to you, Dublin Phil.
Good morning. If my name was Phil Egan, I'd be a genius. That'd be my big Sam Allardyce kind of take on that one.
Well, look at you've teed us up nicely. After all the fluff of the FA Cup during the week, Phil, I wouldn't have liked to have seen your must-watch of games during the week. We've got a couple of belters this weekend at the Premier League. For your must-watch, might watch and won't watch, is your must-watch only 2 games? Am I reading this correctly?
No, must-watch. I think obviously the City and Spurs game. You've Liverpool, Leicester. Then on Sunday you've got West Brom with the aforementioned big Sam Allardyce against Manchester United, and then you've got the Arsenal-Leeds game as well. I'd probably watch the 2 games on Monday as well become must-watches because there's nothing else on. That's really what happened. And
that's fair enough.
It's kind of like how I approached the FA Cup this week, and yeah, there was a lot of really poor games in the FA Cup, but it was all saved by that Everton and Spurs game.
So talk to us about City Spurs. I've been making the case that Jose is on his last legs. I think the Everton game hammered that home, if anything. What's going to happen here?
I think Jose was loving what happened on Wednesday night because he basically showed everyone, you say, Jose doesn't play attacking football, he doesn't play expansive football. See what happens when he tries to do it? They concede 5 goals against an Everton team that for a majority of the game were without Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And Bernard, a guy that was meant to leave Everton, scores the winning goal. So Jose he'd be rallying the troops saying, right lads, we're back into the trenches now, sit in and let's just play in the counter-attack. We've beaten City 2-0 in our last 2 games, albeit they were home games. This is a trip to the Etihad. So I think the fact that Kane is back is big for them. But the problem for Jose and the way he wants to play, Jose's success has always been built on a solid defence, and they just don't have that at the moment. He doesn't know what his best partnership is. He doesn't know if he should play 3 at the back or a back 4. His goalkeeper isn't helping him either. So it's very hard for Mourinho. I can imagine how frustrated he is looking at the mistakes that they made the other night to concede 5 goals against Everton, and you would imagine City will just have too much of them in that sense. But you could see, look, Spurs are the last team to beat City, and I have to say that 2-0 win back in November, the 21st of November, which when City lost that game, they were in 13th. 2-0 wins over Pep in his last 2 games, Jose Mourinho. But I think the 2-0 this season was far more convincing than last season. There was a little bit of luck involved in the one last season, whereas this season, that game in November, Spurs were very solid defensively, but they looked very decisive when they counter-attacked. So he'd be looking for more of the same. But City are a different animal now, unfortunately, for Jose. And look, I don't think if they lose, Jose's under increasing pressure because nobody's beating City at the moment.
Yeah, and conversely, winning the game could suddenly have everybody thinking, like Jose
he's back.
He isn't a busted.
The Mourinho masterclass.
Yeah. I mean, it might buy him some time, I think, is probably what we're looking at here.
Mourinho could he could have a conversation with Daniel Levy and say, look, we've played some good football at times this season. We've scored, 6 goals at Old Trafford. When we're good, when we're counter-attacking, but I need a solid defence. So you got to give me a few defenders in the summer transfer window. But the problem is, this is Mourinho's 2nd season. I know he didn't have a full season last season. This is kind of usually the season where things happen for him. The 3rd season, you start getting into that territory of where Jose just starts getting annoyed with everyone. And the signs are there already. The stuff about Gareth Bale the other night. And look, Gareth Bale, it hasn't been good so far. He's only started 2 Premier League games, started 10 games in total since arriving, and 6 of those were in the Europa League. So I could see why Mourinho's frustrated, but this is kind of, the hallmarks are there. When Mourinho starts calling people out in public, it's usually a sign that things are not going well, and it tends to end only one way.
Yeah, and we've seen Jurgen Klopp been a bit touchy with reporters during the week as well, Phil, maybe for reasons more than just football, of course, has been written about during the week. But what Liverpool are we going to see this weekend? What end of the up-down graph are they going to be on against Leicester?
Well, it's hard to know because their last 2 away performances were pretty good against Spurs and West Ham. Now, what I would throw into that was I thought Spurs and West Ham gave Liverpool too much respect. And I think City, what they did so well last week at Anfield, especially in the second half, was they sensed Liverpool are not the same Liverpool. So don't give them the respect that they would have commanded when they were playing last season or the season before, that they can be got at. Now, it'll be interesting to see what team he picks. He's obviously brought in 2 centre-halves. Neither of them have featured yet. Unfortunately for Klopp, he doesn't have cup competitions where he could throw one of the defenders in, whether it was Davis or Kabak. He's going to have to throw them in a Premier League game. Do you want to do that against Leicester, against Jamie Vardy, who's back, where if you're going to play for Liverpool in a back four, you're going to play a high line, and it's high-stakes stuff. It's who's going to blink first, because you have to hold the line, whereas Vardy, you know, is going to just keep running in behind you. He'll get caught offside plenty of times, but he'll just keep doing it, and eventually he'll get in. He's got a very good record against Liverpool, and he would be licking his lips at the thought of facing a rookie in that Liverpool defence. And he'd probably licking his lips at the thoughts of maybe facing Fabinho, who didn't have a great afternoon against Manchester City. They definitely targeted him with movement and dragged them out of position, because he is not, as well as he's done as a centre-half, he is not a centre-half. He wants to be in midfield. But look, Klopp is going to have to play one of the centre-halves eventually. He needs to free up Jordan Henderson to play in midfield. Yeah,
I was, and don't judge me, Phil, but I found myself on richardjkeys.com during the week.
That's a dark hole you went down.
Listen, it was in preparation for the show, and viewers and listeners will be able to hear about that coming up in a little bit. And that's my defence. But he was making the case that, he had said previously that it was a 2-horse race, that it was going to be a straight shootout between Liverpool and City for the league. And I think it's clear now it's probably only one, and I mean that in the context of West Brom against Manchester United as well at the weekend. Like, you can't even be guaranteed that United come out of that, obviously, with 3 points.
Yeah, well, look, I think back to the game at Old Trafford earlier in the season. Obviously, Bilic was in charge, and West Brom did enough, I thought, to get a result in that one. They obviously they thought they should have got a penalty that day as well. But it's not working for West Brom, and you kind of wonder how it ends for Sam Allardyce if he does actually end up getting relegated. Is that the end? Because that's the thing he has to cross off his CV. He has to tip exit out, saying never been relegated from the Premier League. And when he got that draw at Anfield, you could see people were thinking, yeah, this is what Big Sam does. It's not pretty, but yeah, he'll keep them up. But the signs are not good. And with Manchester United, one thing they've done relatively better this season, I know that the Sheffield United result was a big shock, but they have beaten those teams down near the bottom that they're expected to beat. And the fact that it's away from home as well should suit United. And West Brom can't just go there, or can't approach the game thinking, let's play for a draw. West Brom need wins, and that will suit United. They should be able to just pick them off on the break. And I know they weren't great against West Ham, but bear in mind, Solskjaer made changes. Eventually, he brings on certain players to change things up. But yeah, they'll be a bit fresher, and Bruno Fernandes goes back in. And yeah, I think United will get the job done, and they'd probably be hoping that maybe Spurs can do them a favour. But yeah, I'd agree with you. I think City are going to win the league. United are well positioned to finish second, and then what happens in the race for the top four is probably going to be the most exciting part of the rest of the season, because the relegation battle looks done, and Liverpool, if they can beat Leicester, they go ahead of them. Chelsea are on the run as well, so I would think maybe out of those 3 teams, there's obviously only 2 places up for grabs.
Yeah, and the 2 Monday games in your must-watch list as well. Philippe, thanks a million. Enjoy the football over the weekend.
Will do, thank you.